Welcome to the Alchemy of Transformation podcast.
I'm Anouk, a transformational coach, multidisciplinary artist, speaker, and teacher.
And I'm Elijah, a multidimensional coach, a transformational artist, speaker, and teacher.
We are two source workers deeply connected with our cosmic origins. We are all about incarnating our higher purpose into our lives and helping others do the same.
In our discussions, we will share our favorite pieces of wisdom and tools that we personally use to stay aligned and get the best out of ourselves.
We hope that you are as excited as we are to deeply explore the mysteries of the multiverse.
Are you ready?
Let's dive.
Hey. Hello, Anouk.
Hello, Elijah.
And hi, everybody else.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Alchemy of Transformation podcast. As you know, here we are in our imperfect selves, showing up and sharing our deep conversations about life.
Sharing our truth.
Yeah. As we're journeying, just like you, trying to figure it out on this earth.
As we go.
So today's episode, we decided to bring up the subject, the beautiful subject of the higher self. The higher self is part of our inner anatomy, spiritual anatomy. So we have a couple of thoughts. We want to speak about the higher self and have a conversation about that we're going to share with you. And we thought, let's do a little meditation to connect with our higher self. And so this is what we're going to begin with, so that Elijah and Anouk are aligned with their higher self, and maybe you too can rejoice and connecting and taking this opportunity to do as we do. And if you're not interested, however, you can directly skip to the conversation, and you can look at the show notes where we're going to put the exact time when the meditation is over.
Yeah, and it's going to be a short one, just to make sure that our energies are aligned with this version of us that has so many wisdom and guidance to share. So in my opinion or experience, it's always worth it to, with intention, connect with our higher self.
Great. So, would you like to guide it, Anouk?
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, I think that I have this like positive judgment towards yourself, that you have so much to offer around connecting with like higher dimensions. I surely can do it as well. But
how about we make it a joint thing then? If you want, I can begin. And I always have a sense that you catch subtlety with such grace that I have a sense you can even, just add to it.
Okay, let's try it. It can be tricky to both facilitate, but I'm willing to try it.
All right. Fantastic. So let's take a moment. If you're sitting, just feel your buttocks. If you're standing and walking, maybe if you're doing something, just take a couple minutes to stop doing it. Like, it's totally fine. And you can also just keep doing it. It's really up to you. And if you are driving, keep your eyes open. I believe that you can do both at the same time, but if you feel like you can't, absolutely don't. But keep your eyes open. And my invitation is to just take in outside world and inside world in the same level. But if you are simply able to listen, I invite you to close your eyes, feel your body, and take a deep breath. Exhaling, and you can make a sound. Inhale into the belly. opening the chest and release.
Mm.
And as you're opening the chest, just feel the space in chest, in the heart space. Just feel an expansion. And if you can even bring in a little something of happiness, of joy. You can even find a little something to be grateful for. Even if it's just this present moment, which is an opportunity. We can be grateful for this opportunity that we've given ourselves to connect with spirit, to connect with the inner world. I'm grateful to have a partner like Anouk, to have his amazing conversation, and a person who's willing to show up and share them with others. I have such gratitude for that. What do you have gratitude for internally? And let's take a moment from this self that is feeling this opening. We can take a deep breath and expand our sphere of consciousness into more of our aura, and expanding into the earth and expanding into the sky, feeling the stars, feeling the sun, feeling the moon, allowing ourselves to expand to a larger sense of self. We can take a moment from this place to use our will, our intention, and say something like, I align my lower self with my higher self. I align my lower self with my higher self. This place where consciousness is more expanded, that I may receive clearer guidance, clear vision, clear purpose. That may, through this connection with my higher self, I'm in touch with more compassion for myself and others. Would you like to add more, Anouk?
You're doing it in such a beautiful way. I'm kind of in a place where I love to receive your words and wisdom.
And in the higher self, we are also more open to receive. I open to receive the guidance of my higher self in the trust of love and light. Releasing my ego and my mental as they try to control and make all the decisions. I make a bit of room and more room for my higher self to suggest and whisper to my mental and my ego in ways I can open to receive more, see better, feel more deeply, and release just as deeply. And I just feel called to do one last exhale in which we truly release deeply and release anything that no longer needs to be in our sphere of thought, emotion, and body. And so I take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. Oh, yeah. All right, I'm going to get in touch with my body, my vibrating body, all of my cells that are contributing to this vehicle for my soul, for my higher self to be into this body. I am now feeling my hips and my feet, and you can open your eyes and just breathe and rejoice.
Thank
you, everybody.
I do feel expanded in my energy fields and at peace and attuned with higher frequencies. So Thank you for your medicine.
My pleasure. Thank you for the space you gave me. And I am a little shy of your positive projections that you have on me, as I think you are also just so freaking amazing.
Uh-huh.
And you have guided us before into meditations that were really powerful and loving. So, yay, everybody. Now, thank you, everybody. We're back after the meditation that brought us into this nice expanded state. And let's talk about higher self. The
Mm-hmm.
first thing I want to say is when we say higher, it doesn't necessarily mean better.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a place of comparison where we're comparing in duality and creating value. We get different information in depending on where we deposit our sense of I. And there's a certain level of quote unquote control we can have in where we do build our center of awareness. And higher self, it only means a slightly more expanded space than the one you're in right now. Because we could also say the highest self, but whatever dimension you're in, there's always a higher dimension and there's always a lower dimension, and they're just different places of being.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I had the exact same thought when I was connecting with the conversation we would have and during the meditation as well. It felt like it's not a more divine part of ourselves. Everything about us is divine. So the higher self, I like to see it as ourselves being on the top of the mountain. When I am on the top of the mountain, I am higher, literally, and it gives me perspective. So, as you said, it's not about being better, it's just about having a different point of view.
Yeah, point of perspective. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we haven't done this yet, but Anouk had this uh, desire to share from a book, which it's a little extract
Mhm.
that would like to read and share because it gives a really nice. I haven't heard it yet, so the way Anouk presented it is that it brings up really interesting points, and I won't say more.
Sure. So this is a book. I'm looking for the exact name of the author. So this is a book by Pamela Cribe. I hope I pronounced her name well. Called Heart-Centered Living. And this is a book of channelings of Jeshua and other representatives of the Christ consciousness. So, yeah, these are Jeshua's words. And there is a beautiful quote that actually talk about the higher self and the lower self and put it in a very inspiring way. So I felt like reading it and maybe jazzing a little bit around it. So there we go. The angel inside of you is the higher self who wants to connect with physical reality, incarnate and shine its light upon earth reality. It is the knowing part. Your inner child is the passion of life itself. It is desire, emotion, and creativity. It is the experiencing part. The child part in you is your lower self. The inner child is a source of joy and creativity if it lives in harmony with the angel within. But if it breaks away from the angel's caress and goes adrift, it is the source of emotions running wild. Anger will turn into hatred and vengeance. Fear will pervert into defense, neurosis, and frustration. Sadness will deteriorate into depression and bitterness. The original emotions are pointers, messages from the experiencing part of you. It is the child that through these emotions, reaches out its hands to the angel inside of you. The emotions express the pure, unknowing experience. They are an expression of misunderstanding. It is in the connection to the angel that emotions can be picked up as pointers and understood. As such, the emotions become instruments for transformation and exploration. The lower self enriches and fulfills the higher self as it provides the knowing part with felt content. The angel in you comes to life and experiences deep joy if she is allowed to enlighten the child. And if the higher self shines through in this way, your emotional body quiets down and gains balance. The fruit of the flowing together of angel and child is an intuitive inner knowing that can imbue your life with light and effortlessness. The higher and lower principles in you, the angel and the child, are an organic, meaningful whole. Notions higher and lower, therefore, are not really right. It is about a joyful playing together of knowing and experiencing. It is the interplay that leads to true, incarnated, as opposed to theoretical wisdom.
Thank you, Anouk.
Mm.
Can you say again the name of the book?
Yeah, it's called Heart-Centered Living, and it's written by it's channeled by Pamela Cribe.
Wow. And that would be Joshua's words.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. AKA a clone of Jesus Christ or Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That we can call an ascended master, but I know that he doesn't like that word very much because he really consider himself as a brother. Yeah. So it's not, again, it's exactly as we were saying, like he is higher in his path and in his consciousness, but he's not better. He just has more perspective.
Right. Yeah. I was sorry, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to say that in the reading that you just did, the idea that the inner child is part of the lower self, and that the inner child can be inspired and connected to its angel energy, and it's when we're kind of like, I guess, not connected to our angel energy, like it said, like all of our emotions kind of rotten and go in the wrong, in a more contracted state, right? Where we're really focused on an object or a person, a subject, a situation, that we can't let go of our emotion, and our emotion just grows and grows and grows. And and I guess like the little meditation we did, or just anything that we do to slightly expand our consciousness, it passes through the emotional realm as a human, and a lot of it is how do we relate to our emotion and the signals that it shows us. And I guess when we're with hatred, it's a good sign that we have less angel energy, and it's almost giving us an alchemical solution path, problem solvent of just, the text kind of shows us, work your emotions to get back to the joy of the inner child, which then connects you to the angelic energy, which then, in that space kind of expands you. And there's nothing wrong in being hateful. It just doesn't really produce that much love and expanded state. It can be consuming.
Yeah, and just an indicator that there is a split somewhere inside of you. And by reaching out to the inner child or the lower self, you can overpass the split and recreate that connection, that inner bond that enriches as much your human experience as your higher self experience. So as the quote is super beautifully saying, it's a dynamic, it's a relationship, and it's a journey, and there is not right or wrong point of view, or like more or less divine point of view. There's just different roles that are playing by different actors or part of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't help but it touches me in the sense that at the end of the day, it is our decision. It's our will. It's how do we embark in the dynamic? How do I become an active agent in that dynamic? In a way, I am an active agent, but it's like becoming conscious of what kind of activation I am doing. And yeah, I'm fascinated. I feel like an energy emotional doctor sometimes, always looking for, well, then what are the techniques? What are the protocols? What are the paths that we do to get from one point to the next? And I just want to say that personal practice is so important. Meditation, journaling, taking the time to not be super over busy and stimulated all the time, that we can actually be with what is internally, be with the emotional state, be with the inner child, be with what is, to assess and support and welcome, and that in itself is transformative already. But yeah.
Yeah, with the starting point or intention to be self-loving and self-compassionate, in that dynamic or mechanic that we are exploring, our humanness is like, has a huge mission of exploring the new. So our lower self is on through a path of discovery, of it, with the purpose of contributing to the expansion of the universe. Every single moment that we live is new, into the eyes of the universe, or the eyes of God. So we are so honored and supported in that role we are playing, and that it is so important. And so if we have that perspective that we are, as humans, in the here and now, experimenting something that nobody else experimented, we can only have compassion for ourselves, because we are innocent, because we don't know. We are kind of like going forwards into darkness at some point. So, and this is why this dynamic with the higher self is so important, because from this higher point of view, it can guide us.
Yeah, so deep, what you just said. This sense that every moment is a moment of creation, is a newness. Every moment we're creating the expansion of the universe. It takes me out of this linear thinking that there's this line, and I'm somewhere in the middle of it, and I'm just walking it, but something's already traced before me, versus, like, I don't know if I've done a lot of gardening, and I remember at some point watching this vine growing, and I would work all day, come back in the evening, and I would see how far it had grown, and it would grow so fast, like, half a foot a day, like huge, like really, like. And at some point, I remember imagining the cells, the momentum that the plant had to grow meant that has, at somewhere in its essence and at the tip of it, is this constant go, 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 go. Even though for me, like, it was still a bit of a distance. Like, what I'm trying to say is that for the beings growing at that moment, they're in very rapid growth, exploring the world. And the way it's growing, it's looking for things to attach. It's going towards the light and support, and just observing the plant making its own way so quickly. Like, to me, that what got awakened inside of me is this sense that at every moment I am looking inwardly and outwardly for all of the signals to point to where I should grow, or not grow, hide. Like, and to some degrees, like, who in me is deciding where I am going or where I am not going. And I think that taking the time to welcome the higher self allows for that place inside of us that is making that decision. Where am I going to make the universe grow today, right this minute? How am I being a channel, being a conduit for the universe to create itself? Taking the time to be a responsible and conscious co-creator of the universe. Yeah.
And how would you describe the higher self in more of a like theoretical language?
What do you mean by theoretical? Like we could put people have put the higher self on maps. You know, like there's the higher self, the lower self, the mask, the essence, the wound. That's like a pathway. We used it in the Brandon School of Healing. But path work is beautiful. I can't remember. I'll look for it and put the name of the author. But of this group, Pathwork was kind of like channeled by this person and their partner, and they held these workshops and these groups and these beautiful readings, where it was really like psycho-spiritual anatomy, where really like joining psychology and understanding of ego and a lot of stuff that Freud and then Jung and then other people developed and stuff, but with a spiritual connotation. And so there, if I may, theoretically, in the essence, here we are, essence. I am essence, period. And then there's a choice to incarnate, and then I go into a body. And going into that body creates a wound. There's a separation. And so in the center, there's essence, but then right around it is this wound that goes, I am separated, I am not enough, I am alone, or whatever the soul fragment experienced at the moment of separation and went into a body. And then that is so painful, that wound, that just around it goes the lower self, which is the part of us that is closest to our individuality and what we need to survive, and is more eager to be like negative and me, I come first, unless we do the emotional work of being connected to our angelic self and the inner child and really like opening that. But really quickly as we grow up, we realize that if we're always in our lower self, that's not how society works. So the way I am in society creates a mask. I create a personality aspect of me that is around my lower self, where I'm like, oh yeah, I am this. I am lovable because I am powerful, or because I am lovable because I am caring, and we develop all of these false ways of being in the mask, to be a part of society. And then around that is the higher self. And so our consciousness can easily like travel from one point to the next throughout the day. You know, we can be more in our wound, we can be more in our lower self, we can be more in our mask, if we can be more in our higher self. But I think that at first, to be in our higher self, some of us need to do some work to lighten up the lower self. We need to bring consciousness and release certain false belief about the wound. Oh, I thought I was so separated and not enough, but wait a second, when I'm in my higher self, that is not a truth. When I'm in my higher self, I can connect with my deeper essence more easily. But so we do have to do better work to be able to expand to our higher self, which will then, as it is englobing the whole thing, it is surrounding the mask and the lower self and the wound. It has all these tools and love and compassion and observance to support the whole process. Like that, when we talk about aligning with an intention of healing before we go into therapy work or go into the lower aspects of ourselves, we do it by passing through the higher self. It's the higher self that we empower to be the guide as we dive deeper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that an answer for your question?
Sure, sure. And I like that you started by saying that some people channeled or like like created or mapped some theories around the higher self. So it brings the perspective that we all have our own perception and our own understanding, and that ultimately our experience is deeply individual, which makes me also like the fact that we started with that meditation, because instead of saying, oh, like describing the higher self with some like super like clear guidelines and put words and like more of a mental frame around it, it's more like, what is your own connection with your higher self? How does it feel when you are connected to your higher self? And for sure, everyone has their own unique way to relate and feel and embody their higher self.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody has their own pathway to gain access to their higher self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we can go try different approaches and eventually really understand which one is our own way, and it's okay to take a little bit of this person's teachings and a little bit of this person's teachings, at the end of the day creating our own path. I remember a few years ago, like a few decades ago, there was this explosion of capacity for everybody to leave the religion tradition of their family and explore multiple ones. And I remember there was this spiritual buffet, eat for all, and there was a bit of potential judgment about that. Are we losing something sacred about a traditional one tradition and going deep into one? And I think that, yes, going deep into one means we're going deeper, and that's important. If we're just taking a bit of the surface of a whole bunch of stuff, it's not necessarily as powerful. But still, I think we're at this time now where each of us are learning to be an individual in the collective, and so there's a part of us that creates our own path through what is available to all of us, and as we shine our own self through this, then we contribute even more to the whole collective. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know that you yourself have been creating a map, and would you like to talk about your own map?
Yeah, I can mention some things about it. Which makes me realize that the higher self is not included in it, which is no problem. But there is so many different ways of relating to that infinite spiritual reality. So the higher self is one part of it. But yeah, the map is some pieces of information that I received in one moment in which I felt highly connected with my spiritual nature and essence. I have it right in front of me, so it's my like handwritten, a little bit of a draft version, and I'm working on the more like finished one, but I can show it for the people who are looking at the video version, and maybe what. Okay. So we're not seeing very well, but we have at the center the soul, which would be also considered at our essence, and around it there is circles. The first circle being the inner child, and then just the next circles being the feminine and the masculine essence, which is also to me kind of a densification of the energy of our energy into matter. So yeah, I have as like like guidelines, and we already have episodes about in which we talk about feminine and masculine energy. So to me, it's a very useful guideline to understand myself and understand the world. And to me, the masculine energy is about like being a channel for manifestation. So, which is why the masculine is all around the feminine and the inner child. So it's like gradually bringing into form our essence.
Very
So
cool.
I'm gonna stop there because, as I said, this map or model doesn't include the higher self, and it is what we are talking about. But it's a nice way to show that we all have our own unique way to relate to this experience, spiritual experience that we are having. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel called all of a sudden, if for those who are listening, maybe it could be I'm offering a homework. Maybe take a couple hours or multiple moments, or start thinking about, and then eventually get to the point of writing it down and drawing it. But maybe do take a moment to think about your own vocabulary, first of all, around the inner self. Maybe you have your own religious tradition that has its own language, like, but or perhaps you yourself have been building some, or you haven't, and maybe this is an opportunity to do it. But look at different aspects of yourself. Do you talk about ego? Do you talk about defense? Do you talk about defense mechanisms? Do you talk about, there's so many languages out there right now, but my invitation to homework is create your own map. And obviously it's not a finished map, it's going to keep evolving. But maybe that can create for you a sense of clarity and more direction, or more ease in how you do use your own psycho-emotional, physical, pranic, spiritual energy.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, you said homework, but we could say play work.
Yeah, of course. Sorry for
play, or yeah, we had to reinvent the vocabulary we use. Because to me it sounds like fun. It sounds like exploration. It sounds like self-discovery. So
it's part of what I call personal practice. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Personal practice to me isn't just like pranayama, yoga, workout, or whatever. It's also journaling. It's also writing down our own maps of the inner world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have to learn to become our own master again. There is such like strong beliefs around like outer authority, but as we are talking about the higher self, we are our own inner authority. So and the higher self offers us so much guidance about what are our values, what is our truth, what are our passions, and how to build a life that is truly unique and coherent with this unique truth.
Yeah. I just thought of another thing about the higher self that I think is worth sharing. We've been talking about the higher self as like my higher self, and then your higher self, and like my journey in my internal processing to get to my higher self. But and the higher self can seem to be like mine, but the higher we go in consciousness, the more unified our consciousnesses are. Mm-hmm. And so the higher self isn't just looking out for you, it's also looking out for a win-win for all. It also has information beyond you, has information, beyond what we have a sense of self of. It goes into a more also collective space. So mm-hmm. I just wanted to mention that, like, if I'm having an issue, let's say with a partner, and I'm emotional, I'm contracted, maybe I will call in my higher self to get more guidance about it, and how to regulate myself and expand, or what is my truer need and how to communicate it. It will also take into account the other person's well-being. It won't be about just me
Mhm.
and my win. The higher
Mhm.
self is very much about more collective sense of self.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. That's powerful. Mm, Yeah, because we're all one field of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, which makes me think as well that, like, we were talking about different models or way to understand this infinite multiverse. But I've heard some teachings about like our higher self being kind of the coordinator of multiple incarnations in multiple universe or realm of reality. So as you said, as we go higher into like dimensions and like higher frequencies, the more we are unified and like collective in our vibration. So it's not my higher self. It's like a higher entity that connects me with the whole and with so many other parts of myself that I'm not aware of from this lower self perspective.
Yeah. I have this weird image analogy. I'm going to share it. I don't know if it's going to make sense to everyone. Bear with me, please. So I often think of like a multidimensional world, and the world we live in the biology where Anouk and I are recording this thing. Let's call it the 3D. And then all of our thought conceptions is like 4D, and like the dead people and our ancestors and all of the astral bodies that we've taken over time and will take over time is all like mainly in the astral. But then there's this world above, again, where it kind of, so I often compare this 3D world as a simulation, and me, my body, as an avatar, as a player in this game. But there is a player that is not in the game. There's a consciousness that is beyond my avatar, that is connected on a more 4D, 5D level, and itself has a whole world, a whole community, a collective, organizations, institutions, agendas, missions, whatever. It itself has a, it's like, for those who are gamers who go online, they play this character and then they, pause, go pee, have food, right? Answer a text, whatever. So I often have this sense of that. And so like the higher self to me is kind of like the part of the avatar that is in constant interface with all of the other entities, individuals, souls playing the game on Earth. And us on Earth, there's this veil of forgetfulness. Once we're in the game and we're like playing the 3D and moving the stuff, it's like super hard to connect with that information. But once we clear our emotional body and our physical body, and we can bring more and more light to it, we can bring the physical body awareness into the higher self world, dimension, level of consciousness. So there you go. It's a pretty weird image, and maybe it won't resonate with everybody, but sometimes I imagine the higher self being like the one who doesn't have the veil of forgetfulness, that has a lot of information and is part of a bigger community of players on the higher dimensions. And we can ask for guidance because it knows a heck more. It can see through time, like my higher self has told me many times, oh, my client is going to be late, or things like that. Maybe it's called intuition, but I do feel like it's the part of us that reads and receive information on frequencies that are so subtle that it's just so much information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which brings us back to this like merging the angel and the inner child.
Bingo.
The experiencing part of ourselves and the knowing part of ourselves. As the higher self has higher perspective, it's a guide. And by, as you said, having our spiritual and emotional hygienes, we come to this merging that we are looking for, and incarnating the light and wisdom and love of our higher self onto this earth.
Hmm. Wow. I feel there's this angelic energy with us right now. I feel really
Mm.
full in my heart and really feel blessed with this conversation.
Mm. Mhm.
I don't know how to say it. Being blessed by this conversation. I don't know. I just feel grateful to have this divine space. I feel like we could take all this beautiful energy, really put it into our body and put it into our day
Mm.
and stay with this.
Mhm. Yeah, I also feel complete in what we've shared. Mm, it feels like enough words, and as you said, bringing the intention to embody it.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you, Elijah,
Thank you,
for
Anouk.
your time and energy and wisdom and love. And thank you, everyone who spent their time and energy and love with us. We surely want to hear about your wisdom as well. So let us know what is your relationship and perspective on your higher self, and what are your practices maybe to connect with your higher self. This is a wider conversation.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, wasn't that interesting? What did you think? We certainly hope that something opened up for you and that you know and love yourself even more.
We surely want to witness your insights and transformation, so please share with us what you got out of it. You'll find our social media links in the description.
Stay tuned for the next alchemical conversation.
Take care, beautiful star being.